Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1439, or if you will, 1439 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. That's where I get my pizza. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success. And Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making his Toronto Mic debut, is Alfie Zappacosta.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. You hear me all right?
You sound great.
Good.
Now, Alfie, may I call you Alfie?
Of course you can.
Okay. I feel comfortable with you. I feel like I can ask you anything.
You can. You can. You know, be careful what you wish for.
That's right. And you're in Edmonton?
Yes. I live in Edmonton about 30 years now.
You were a Toronto guy. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Toronto for, I was born in Italy. I was just 6 months old. So I lived 40 years in TO for the most part. And then, all of a sudden I was still Canadian, but Edmontonian Canadian, but, a lot of time in Toronto for sure.
So what brought you to Edmonton?
Toronto was getting really, really crazy. There's a lot of nutty friends and family and stuff, It was just getting too big. My children at that point were about 7 and 10, and the craziness sort of seemed to be following me around quite a bit. I'd gone to Halifax. People would ask me, like, what I do. Could I do theater? Could I do musical theater and stuff? And I remember the time needing diapers and whatnot. Another one of those slow times in the recording industries and things like. Well, not so much the recording industry, but as far as like what I had to do with it. But
right.
So I took it anyway. To make it short, was I did some theater. It was Evita, and some people saw it, and I got back to Toronto, and I was thinking at one point I probably might was looking at moving. It could have been the East Coast. It could have been like whatever. At that point, it was East Coast because I spent a lot of time there doing Evita at the Neptune Theater in Halifax. It was horrifyingly scary, a whole new world for me that I didn't know existed. Came back to Toronto and got a phone call from some people in Edmonton to ask me if I wanted to do Jesus Christ Superstar in Edmonton. And I remember seeing the Jewison production, and I just thought that it was kind of like hokey. I mean, I didn't like it. Not to mention that doing Evita and doing theater scared me to death. There was a whole new element of learning, people that studied this, the people that I was with that studied like theater all their lives, they danced, they sang, they know the sets, they know where to be, they know all the jargon, and everything about them was so pro. And I felt like I was just constantly I did a good job. I did fine. Everybody thought it was wonderful. I got great reviews, but I said, never do it again. I got a call from Edmonton to come do Jesus Christ Superstar. They thought I was playing hard to get because I kept saying no.
Right.
Because I was petrified, and they just kept upping the money, And it wasn't so much, again, it was sort of like surprising. I guess this is how business works. You keep saying no, they keep upping it. But it got to a point that my wife overheard. It's not huge amounts of money or anything like that. It wasn't large, like theaters like in Edmonton, small theater, but it was my wife overheard, and she says, "I guess you're Jesus." So I went to Edmonton to do Jesus Christ Superstar. I was realized it was a little bit easier this time in knowing that I had done it at the Neptune Theater in Halifax for about 4 months. Well, the whole theater singing thing, and I got through it okay. Everything was great. But while I was there, I rented a bike and I got on my two-wheeler, and I would be going all over the place and getting a vibe of what Edmonton was about. And it was small enough and big enough. It was city feeling enough, and people seemed pretty cool, even though it seemed like people would say it's quite blue collar and whatnot. It had a great arts community, and I was looking at getting the hell out of Dodge. So that brought me here after being about 4 or 5 months doing Jesus Christ Superstar. I brought the wife and kids over, and I had them stay with me for a couple of weeks, and it was a very simple transition.
Now, when you say bike, you mean bicycle? Or
yeah, bicycle.
Okay, just making sure it's not a motorcycle.
Yeah, no motorcycles. I just I went through those days a long time where a lot of my friends just said that's still very much into those and the bikes and stuff. But this was just a mountain bike that I would go back and forth everywhere instead of renting a car. It was just I was biking. I did it all through Toronto the whole time anyway.
Okay, so I bike Toronto still, but Edmonton's weather quite different than Toronto. Like, how long did it take you to adapt to those winters?
Oh, just overnight. There was no problem.
Okay.
What we've had is like brown Christmas this year. I mean,
right.
it's like -5. We had an incredible week of -40 and stuff like that. That was like exactly 1 week. I mean,
right.
we've had definitely, this is odd, but you can get like about a month about 20 below, 25 below and stuff like that. But people prepared for it. It's real simple. Ends up being like really sunny a lot of times. So you take the cold, and it's as you've heard before, right? It's dry cold. It's drier. So in a lot of ways it doesn't seem to get into your bones. Right. But
well, I married an Edmonton girl, so I know quite well. My wife, born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's we're from people from all over the place being displaced and stuff. It's still quite a bit cheaper to live here than
sure.
It's just again, anywhere in Canada, as long as there's an airplane for me, and as long as it was a jet of some sort, it didn't matter where I was and what I did. I just hop on and go. So. I imagine now these days too, with the idea of Zoom, as you're talking, I mean, people could live. It doesn't matter where they are, really.
Well, it's funny because you were at Hughes Room, I want to say last summer. Whenabouts did you come to Toronto and play Hughes Room?
So around that time, yeah, it was last year for sure.
So I was chatting with Jane Harbury.
Yeah.
And by the way, she's going to come over here and make her Toronto mic debut soon. But with Jane, I said, Jane, I see Zappacosta's coming to Hughes Room. I said, I desperately want Zappacosta to visit. And it couldn't come together. I guess you had tight schedule. Like, we couldn't make that happen. But then with all this like talk of We Are the World, I went back and revisited the Tears Are Not Enough documentary from 1985. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe Alfie will Zoom with me and we can finally make this happen. So thanks for making some time for me today.
Well, sure. I mean, absolutely. There's no problem whatsoever. I mean, I'm glad to be here. I just need to hear some music was playing in the background. I'm trying to get you up on. Are you still there?
I'm here. Yeah. You can hear music?
Good. It doesn't matter. It's all good. As long as you're here, you can hear me. That's all fine.
I can hear you. If you hear music, though, I'm worried it might be coming from somewhere in Edmonton.
No, it's just something I did. I just brought the volume up on my board over here, and something went weird.
Technical difficulties. Okay. Well, you talked about getting around on your bike, which I love to hear. Now, let's go in the time machine. Do you want to go back to the 70s with me?
Sure.
Okay. So here's a little song I'm going to play. And then we're going to talk about this band and like who you were at the time and how you got into music and all that exciting stuff. But let's listen to a little bit of, well, the song's actually from 1982, but the band goes back to the 70s. Let's listen to a little bit of Start Again.
I don't believe it. How have you been? It's been a long time.
Nice to see you again, what you been up to? You look well to me, come down to my place. I'll pull out some cheer and we'll talk again. It's nice to talk again. My brother, he was doing okay. He worked in plastics, made a good wage, too much pressure to be faced every day, and so his problems got carried away, and he gets to the booze once too often. Don't know why he wants to get so high. When things go wrong, in good time, he'll come around. Easy come and easy go. Can't seem to stop him, he just starts again. He just starts again. Did I tell you about the love of my life? You know she left me.
I could listen to the whole thing, Alfie.
Oh my, oh my, oh my.
So is this taking you back? What are you thinking about right now?
Oh Jesus! Trying to go back into where that was all done at the sound kitchen in the northern part of Toronto, where we were living, a little studio that I found, Cal the Sound Kitchen, and the people that were living there, and you listen to that little mousy voice and stuff like that. It's pretty amazing. Quite the time travel is what that was. Yeah.
So this is Surrender. And tell me a little bit, like for those listening who aren't, maybe they don't remember Surrender, they might be a bit young, but tell us what made you fall in love with music, and then tell us how Surrender came to be.
It's Surrender was getting out of I never let anybody in high school or school know that I played anything. It was nothing that I really planned on doing. I thought for sure I was going to be a hairdresser. My father was a barber and spent a lot of time. And we were young enough, I guess, and we got together with a bunch of kids, band. And it was a way to meet girls and stuff. And we'd play. Music was fun, doing it. And we ended up, a bunch of us getting together up in the Kipling and the Islington and the Rexdale areas and stuff like that. And a bunch of us got together, Paul Delaney and Steve Jensen and Peter Curry. And we got together and we joined bands. We joined Robert E. Lee and the Brigade. We joined Jeanette Brantley, and I can't remember what the ass end name of that was, but we went out and started doing things and performing songs that were written like top 40. Robert E. Lee, his name was actually Frank Quetisi. I really liked Robert. He would just listen to the radio, or better just get a list of the top 40 hits and just give us just a list and say, learn all these, and then he'd sing them, and we'd go in places like the Cambridge Motor Hotel and all the places that were in Toronto once upon a time. And we would play them on the weekends when we when we did the gigs. And that was fun for a while, cutting your teeth. And then, and it was just fun, nothing serious about it. And then Jeanette Brantley, and at that point we started, and with Robert too, we would do some touring things. We go to Timmins and Kapuskasing, Timmins, a little bit of Thunder Bay, if you can imagine, Sault Ste. Marie, North Bay, Sudbury, just the places that were still sort of what we consider Ontario, but got a taste of it. But I got a taste pretty quick in realizing that the idea of doing, and with Jeanette Brantley, it was a disco era. So we were learning a lot of songs that were sort of like dance oriented and stuff, and started to realize at the time the band seemed to be an awful lot of work to be able to maintain and keep a band together just based on personalities. And I'm going, and we were doing other people's music. It wasn't really anything. And I just figured that if I'm going to have to put up all this crap with a band and whatnot, it might as well be original. So we, Paul Delaney and Peter Curry were with me at the band. Steve Jensen came after. But I just said, if I'm going to be doing this, it has to be original music. So we went back into Toronto, and there was a little music store, and Paul and I were doing a part-time thing where Paul was drumming and teaching, and I was teaching some guitar, and just the preteens, just little kids and stuff like that. And they would give us the store to rehearse at night, so all the gear was there and whatnot. So we started to practice. I started writing a whole bunch of songs. I guess we were writing together, but it seems to be that it was really all based off of my ideas, it seemed like. So
Right.
a fella called Ken Morris came down that Paul knew, and Ken Morris was a brother-in-law of a fella called Frank Davies, who Frank Davies was just huge in the music community even back then, with everything from Crowbar to, well, you name it, well, I can't remember the name of the bands right now. It's just sort of seems to miss. But anyway, he brought these demos that we were doing over there, and he brought them over to his brother-in-law, who was Frank Davies. Frank Davies went to Dean Cameron at Capitol Records at the time, not even EMI. And we got a deal. And that was the beginning of the end, so to speak.
Surrender got a deal, and you recorded 3 albums. And that song I just played, I guess, is from the last album, right?
That was the very first one.
Oh, the first one. Okay.
That sounds like Mr. Mini Mini Me for sure. I mean, that was the very first record. And then I believe at the Sound Kitchen way back.
So this begs the question, why did you end up going solo?
I had no. This was really the music company, the music business, and the record company at the time that sort of pushed me that way. Like all of a sudden, one day it was like, well, put it this way. As the songwriting continued, and those the powers that be saw who was doing the writing. So publishers and record company people and sort of like seemed to feel that I was the one that I should be signed to. So, publishing companies and stuff like that. So it did a quick job of sort of like, picking me up and putting me up front, because I was going to be the one that was going to be basically writing the songs and selling the show. It's nothing that I wanted to do. I felt horrible about the whole thing as usual, but anytime anybody was suing the band or doing anything crazy, it was me that had to pay, seemed like. So one thing led to another, and it was really a record company thing. And all of a sudden, they always thought that the name Zappacosta was a strong name.
And that's on your birth certificate. Just for the record, Alfie, that's a real last name.
Alfredo Zappacosta, and there's an awful lot of Zappacostas in Italy and around where I'm from, Abruzzi and Sora. It's called the La Provincia di Lazio. Wow. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of us there for sure. I mean, just my father, there was 11 brothers and sisters, for God's sake. So it goes on and on.
That's the Catholic way, right? Come on.
Seemed to be, actually, if I remember correctly, my dad said that was more of a Mussolini thing, because he figured like go out and procreate because we need more soldiers.
Right.
Need more of a population to go and be able to fight and stuff like that. So they were, if I remember correctly, my father said that my grandfather was being paid to have kids.
Do you mind if I play another song and then we'll talk a little more Zappacosta here?
Sure.
All right.
I got a frantic disposition, all-consuming mission.
I can feel that passion, Alfie.
Yeah. That was I kind of, it was supposed to be like a co-write. It was a co-write with Bob Ezrin. Bob Ezrin was involved in that, but from the Wall, if you remember, there was
Alice Cooper. Sure.
Mm-hmm. He was. There was a time where the record companies like to be able, to get me involved with a lot of different people. Like, they figured the bigger the name, more records you'd sell. It made a lot of sense. But I'm pretty sure that most of the song was me for sure, and it was something that I went to. What Surrender did a last record, and they sent me down to Los Angeles with Ed Thacker to mix and record a little bit more of it. Well, actually, to mix it, we recorded a lot of it. I'm trying to remember where we recorded it, and maybe phase one. Jesus, hard to remember all that. But so the band did do it. We recorded a record. By the time I got down to Los Angeles to mix it, I realized that what record we were doing at the time to make money in the clubs is to write songs that were sort of more of a rockier, kind of like go and have fun kind of stuff. And so there was no depth to any of the songs that I'd written, except for the ones that I kept on that record in particular, which ended up being the first Zappacosta record. So we went in, record company paid for Surrender to do another record. And because we were gigging all the time, and to make money, like I said, we have to do rock and roll and sort of mindless poppy, mindless pulp. So by the time I got to record it, by the time I got down to mix it and stuff, I realized how shallow everything about it was. And it was very, very difficult to work with. So when I got back, and it was just a complete crock. And when I got back, I asked Dean Cameron, who was a wonderful guy, Dean. And I asked Dean Cameron at EMI here in Canada, and I said, Dean, give me a little bit more money and let me re-record a bunch of stuff. And he did. He gave me some monies, and I went into D Long used to be with Klaatu. D Long and John Jones. John Jones wasn't with Klaatu, but they were all good friends, and they had a studio called it'll come to me. But the studio was just a little barn kind of thing, and it's like a house next to a barn or whatever the hell it is. And we went in there, and D was quite a genius, and it still is. He's was working with the Fairlight computer at the time, and with the Fairlight, I was able to go in there with a new friend of mine, Gerald O'Brien, and I basically wrote just about all the songs. I kept Run Around, Start Again. I kept a few other songs from what Surrender did, and I basically in that 6-week period, I wrote all the new songs, including Passion and everything on that record, and released it right away. And got Dean to release it right away. We had missed our window of opportunity and whatnot, but we definitely, with the strength of D, I was able to use, we would go and get Maserati sounds, and he would go to junkyards and pick up things that he would just start slamming with a hammer and things like that. And we use it for drums, and we would use it for just tricks and shit like that. So we had a lot of fun doing it, and put that record together right away. That was the time that the record company said, this is a Zappacosta record. And from then on, it was, that's how it all sort of started. Even though Paul Delaney, and then at that point, Steve Jensen was in the band, and Peter Curry, they were there up until the beginning of all that, the Zappacosta. And soon after, well, things started getting weeded out and over a period of time. So, but that was the first Zappacosta record.
And here's the first question from the listenership. This comes from Rick A. And Rick A. wants to know, and I'm going to read exactly what Rick A. wrote. He wrote, well, what the hell was the thinking behind the We Should Be Lovers video?
Oh, gosh. Something that I still have a hard time. I have a hard time with that. The thinking was just going to go back to Doug and the Slugs. Doug Bennett had convinced the record company that he had this great video. There was Alfie Zappacosta, supposed to be this real cutie kind of guy. And they figured, and I don't know how much tongue-in-cheek it was as far as what Mr. Bennett had had in mind. But I remember going, this is going to be horrible. I was embarrassed as all get out and doing it. But at the same time, I was very, very naive and wanted to believe that the record company and the management had my best intentions in mind. It was just a crap video, obviously. It was just a piece of shite. But I remember the guys in Loverboy and all the people that were involved just having a great time all around the actual club we were doing it and shooting those poor girls that were like in 3 feet of ice cold jello. To be able to have that consistency is for it to be very, very cold. Every 10-15 minutes we had to rush them out of that pool to put them into a hot shower because hypothermia would be setting in. I'm not kidding. It was that cold.
Wow.
I get thrown in, but it was probably, well, actually, I'm infamous because it's the worst video of whatever 1987. You can actually, the good thing is you can look it up and know online. It was just a piece of shit. It was just horrible.
Got to call a spade, right?
Oh God, it was freaking terrible. I still get people. I tell people on stage these days right now that it's like, and I remember the and I don't blame them. The lady VJs and stuff like that just really didn't like me at all. I just figured that I was just this real fat-headed shithead, but they just had this whole idea that everybody had to be like an Elvis and whatnot or whatever, and right. Played me up to be just this real runaround character and stuff, And it's funny because every time I wrote songs, for the most part, I would write them in first person because I figured that anybody that sang along, They think they were singing about themselves. They say, I'm just a runaround, but I play whatever. It was all fun stuff, but start to realize how many people took things seriously that way. Anyway, I continued on and sort of look at it and have people laugh at me and just sort of going, it's all good. It's all fun because, I go back there. I have to say that it's been very interesting. It's certainly not been a boring life.
Can I change your mind? Will you find some time to explain some magic words to ease the pain? You say that it isn't fair when your heart's not there. That's the bottom line. There's no more feelings to share when your heart's not there, so you decline. I still put my faith in time. I believe we should be lovers, caring for each other, not dealing with the heartaches, watching as our hearts break while love fades away. Oh, I understand that you care, but I want to believe that there's more to share. Only in time we will find if we're right or wrong. Keep an open mind. And though you're sure it can't be, I will always believe we should be lovers, caring for each other, not dealing with the heartaches, watching as our hearts break while love fades away. You must know.
We Should Be Lovers, which is a better song than it is a video. Thank you, Zappacosta, for the real talk there. When Alfie's back in Ontario, Great Lakes Brewery is where I'm going to send him for fresh craft beer. It's delicious, available across this fine province in LCBO stores and even some grocery stores. A good Italian Canadian like Alfie knows the authentic Italian taste he craves is at Palma Pasta. Go to palmapasta.com. Try it once. You'll be a fan for life and you can thank me later. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Alfie, subscribe. Great knowledge, great advice, great best practices. Thank you, Raymond James Canada, for supporting the show, and thank you to recyclemyelectronics.ca. That's where you go if you need to recycle your old electronics, your old cables, your old devices. Don't throw it out. go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. And last but not least, shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. Let's get back to some Zappacosta on Toronto Mic'd. And, of course, you get yourself a Juno Award for Most Promising Male Vocalist. You know, some think that's a curse. What are your thoughts on that?
Nah, not really. I think a lot of bands, if you can think of all the hundreds of bands in Canada, they were all cursed, you know.
Right.
Everybody jump up and everybody try to sound the same and get a, you know, and they did, you know, for the ones that did were lucky enough, the record companies, the radio people, the personalities, all the promoters, were able to package a band that sounded, let's call it the 80s big hair people, and put them all on that bus and send them touring all over, and whatever sticks, as you know, whatever sticks you back, you know. So there's a lot of people that slip off of that wall, obviously, you know, but it was great for a while. And people at the 80s, you can't go out there and do it. Actually, you can go out there and make a living right now sounding like the 80s, you know, if you want to go back and make a living now and do everything from Chicago to Tom Petty to you name the band, and you go out there and you probably get a gig these days. You know, going out to do original music is becoming a little bit on the oddball side, but yeah, on and on and on and on.
But you can always give them the hits, right? People want to hear that vintage Zappacosta, and you can deliver that.
We could I'll give them about 4, 5, 6, 8 songs, you know, whatever. If the people ask, some things I could do. It's really hard for me to go back into the Surrender days and sort of do that, unless these days touring, you know, hard to be able to put a band on the road and continue that way. It's just, you know, I can't imagine that it's just COVID, but I could probably say now it's, I'm 70 years old. There's a lot of people that are coming out there. Either they don't want to come out there, or they're passing, they're dying, or they're having some kind of disease or something like that. So my crowd of people are getting a little older, and they don't like going out all that much anymore. So I'm looking for a younger bunch of people, maybe 50, 60.
Yeah, the 50-year-old kids. You're talking to one right now. I was going to say, shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. Zappacosta's loyal fan base is drifting away.
Got to make fun of it, but I'm doing fine in as far as, like, you know, I'll keep doing it until I drop myself. But in the meantime, it's a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
Okay, in that room that you're in right now in Edmonton, is your Juno Award in that room?
Yeah. They're there. There's some up there.
Oh, they're up. Okay, I see over your shoulder. I see now.
Over there,
okay.
Behind my head. You know, there's the American Music Award, a couple of Junos and whatnot. And there's some stuff from Dirty Dancing, and there's a little bit of things down here. There's not an awful lot, but it all stays down here in my room. It's not in the hall or anything like that. It's just down in my room here.
Well, you should be proud. You know, I've never won a Juno. That might surprise you, but you should be very proud.
well, I don't know whether it was a kind of a strange time for sure. I mean, it's sort of like it was there. It was happening. There was a lot of people wanting to make things happen at the time with EMI and whatnot, but I wasn't very forthcoming when it came to sort of like writing music. We started doing things like, you know, I got involved with Bob Rock and doing some of the records, as you know, but I was not going to do specific rock and roll and stuff. It was just something that I was really sincerely hoping that we do something a little bit more musical. And it was easy enough to fall out of grace and stuff. I don't mean that in a bad way. It was fine. I was going to do what I wanted to do, and all my life is exactly that. That's what I've done, and I continue to do so.
Okay, we have you in 1985 right now, and I think there's a call coming in. I don't know if it's coming from Bruce Allen or what, but they want to know, will Zappacosta be a part of Tears Are Not Enough, the charity single that for famine relief in Africa. Can you please recount for the definitive record? This is very important to me. Who called you? Did they call your management? How exactly did you get involved with Tears Are Not Enough?
Bruce Allen, my manager at the time, Lou Blair. Lou Blair and Bruce Allen were managing Loverboy together. And Frank Davies introduced me to Lou Blair. I loved Bruce Allen, Lou Blair. I liked them. I liked them a lot. I mean, I loved what they were doing, what they did, and stuff. And they were out in Vancouver, and obviously in Canada, they were the go-tos, and as far as like, because they were just doing. Out of Bruce Allen's office and stuff like that. Lou had an office there. They weren't just gangbusters. They were busting everything. That was the only place to be really in Vancouver with that office, that team of people, and they were great. And Bruce was involved, and obviously with Lou being a partner with him, and I was signed to Lou. It made perfect sense that I should be involved and sort of like to be part of that. And I was very lucky to do so. I mean, I was very grateful. I didn't have any idea what was going, but I could see that now these days, people looking back and saying that it was quite a bit of history being made. But when we were told, like I had no problem when they would mention something, leave your egos at the door. I was like, fine. I mean, I already got through. We should be lovers. I can handle just about anything at that point. So yeah, there was no such thing as ego because I had my splayed loose all over the freaking place.
Right. Okay. Well, now I'm going to drill in for a few more details. But one thing I want to tell the listenership, in fact, I'll play this tiny little clip here, but you were paired with Del Bello and you got a line, and I'll just give you props because, sure, Geddy Lee got a line.
Only you can understand the reason why.
Oh,
that was the line. Yeah.
That was the line. I'm gonna play it in a second. I felt in the mix a little more Del Bello than Zappacosta. I might have produced it a little differently, but I'm not David Foster. Okay, who am I to second guess David Foster? Right?
Yes.
All right, let's play it, and then I'll hit you up with the questions. Here is this is Zappacosta and Del Bello on the Northern Lights charity single "Tears Are Not Enough." Right, like it needs a little more. A little more Zappa, a little less Del Bello. Just my 2 cents.
Well, I'm sure she was a lot prettier, and like I said, what can I say? It was fabulous to be there and to be in the situation. It was nice. And Lisa's a hoot. There was the story there. I have to say that she was in Human Forces at the time. She was a very artistic lady, and Ronnie Hawkins was alive and well then, and he was sitting there, and he kept looking at Lisa and calling her Stella. Hey, Stella. And she had the white kind of a bit of white makeup, like purposely done, and very sharp, like vampire kind of eyes and stuff. Very, very striking looking while she was there. And Ronnie, I'm sure that she had worked with Ronnie before, so they knew each other big time. So he kept calling her Stella. Stella. So Lisa at one point looked and said, "Ronnie, are you talking to me?" And he goes, "Yeah, Stella Lugosi."
Because you're right. She had that eye makeup. As I just saw the doc, so she had this eye makeup.
Very vampirish, very vampirish. And it was, of course, Ronnie wouldn't let anything go, but she was a real pro about the whole thing because she knew Ronnie. We just laughed and stuff, and it was just really funny. While we're waiting for our parts to come up and stuff, there was always a little bit of stuff in there, and that had me a little bit of a guffaw going. But like I said, Lisa was terrific about it all.
Did you have were you starstruck at all by Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Anne Marie, and Gordon Lightfoot?
It was a buddy of mine, actually, Jerry, had taken a whole bunch of pictures, and I'd forgotten all about it because I was playing pinball with Joni, and we were talking, and I remember asking her, I said, of the blue record with the naked woman on the rocks, I said, that is you, isn't it? And I was wondering how she'd take that, because you know what I'd be saying, like, what you're just looking at my ass or whatever. But no, it's a beautiful picture. And she told me, she says it had to do with what she was trying to get out of it, was like a Venus de Milo kind of thing. So with her standing on the rocks on this, it wasn't the blue record. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one, but it might have been on the blue record on the inside, where she's standing on the rocks, naked in front of the ocean, but and with her back to you and whatnot. And I asked her, and she just went into great detail as far as what she was doing and stuff. And she was a real hoot, really down to earth and nice. She was great. And then we were playing pinball, and then at some point Brian came up and said, "You're up to Joni," and off they went. That stuff I remember, but I don't remember anybody being there taking pictures, or just how long we were actually playing pinball. But no, I wasn't starstruck in the least. It was just nice to meet these people.
And you know,
I didn't spend much time really talking to Neil or anybody. They were all being around, and everybody was being respectful and just letting them do what they needed to do. You know.
Amazing. Now, okay, so the sign, you leave your ego at the door, that's because when they recorded We Are the World, that's what Quincy Jones had on the door, We Are the World, and David Foster wanted to follow suit there. But I'm wondering, did you witness any egos? Was there any ego at all in that room?
No, I think Bruce Allen would have taken a whip to them or something like that. They just had to put it up there, you know, and everybody was being respectful, sort of like not going goo over everybody and whatnot. And of course, the only people that were invited in were people that were going to be doing any kind of singing. Are going to be part of it and whatnot. So they were all very respectful. And I'm sure that at some point in time, it'd be silly to think that Neil wouldn't sit down next to somebody and say, "Hey, man, how's it going?" And you get a chance to talk about it. He says, tell people, "Can you have your autograph?" You know, nobody was reacting that way, but everybody felt comfortable about hanging around. And I think no matter who they were with, it was just a lot of people saying, like, feeling that there was a privilege to be in and around a bunch of Canadian people. So, yeah, nobody went nuts.
No egos. Now, and good on you again. It's kind of awesome you're part of that, because here we are many years later, and I literally just the other day watched that 1985 documentary, and then I'm, some of these people, like Dan Hill, some of these people have been on Murray McLaughlin, they've been on the show, they've been over, but then I'm like, and then some of these people sadly have passed away, right? They're not all with us anymore. But literally, this is what happened. I see Zappacosta. And now, once I see you, I start thinking about pizza. We'll get to that in a minute. And then I'm like, I wonder if I can have a conversation with Alfie Zappacosta. And here we are. So thank you. Tears are not enough. All right. Do you mind if I play another song?
Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Here's a little more Zappacosta. Oh, before I press play here, let me see what I've got lined up. Stand by, Mr. Zappacosta here. Okay, good. I've got something here I want to play. Here we go. Alfie, who else do I hear on this song?
We went to Morin Heights in Montreal, and it was we did a bunch of the recording in Vancouver, the little mountain sound, ocean, and then we went to mix it and do a couple of extra tracks over in Morin Heights, and Bob Rock was doing the producing, and Fraser Hill was engineering on that. Gerald O'Brien and Jerry Mosby, great friends of mine. Very, very talented boys, and Jerry was there, Gerald was there, and I was doing a lot of different kind of writing, and they were involved in a lot of the stuff in that particular space of time. And Bob and the guys went out to Morin Heights. They went into a club somewhere, and on stage there was these people that ended up being, friends for a while, because the world does change, does move on. They were on stage singing, and I can't remember the name, Francine Raymond, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. But anyway, they were great, great singers. So the guys had all gone out to this pub kind of rock room somewhere in Montreal. It didn't go right to Montreal, but on the outskirts, because we're Morin Heights, and Saint Laurent was all just on the outside of that. But they went to some place. Found these people singing, thought they were great. Bob invited them back, and they were the background singers on that record. Just literally came in the studio. We worked out the parts, and bang! I was finishing the song, writing it in the studio with Jerry at the time too. So Jerry and me and Gerald had gotten the part. I had the basics for the song and stuff, and then with them there, we worked on the production, which it ended up being, because both Gerald O'Brien was quite the, as you could tell, quite the technical keyboard functioner. He was a kind of a bit of a wizard on that kind of stuff. So was able to take, at the time, 80s, what was very, very hip, and in his ideas of keyboards and just understanding of them, and Jerry and their ideas, and I was able to work the song into what we were doing. So it was just really the three of us just came together with that whole vibe. Bob was there just jumping all over it with the people in the background, vocals and stuff like that. And I think it turned out, to think back on it now, was a wonderful song. I still do that song all live, of course, stripped down, completely stripped down, because the song stands up just wonderfully, just with just simplicity and not all the techno stuff.
Now, for the record here, is it A to Z or A to Z, the name of this album?
Well, what would you rather it be? I think Z would probably be a little bit more Britain, right?
Well, in Canada too, right? Like in Canada, it's definitely Z, right? American Z for sure. But this begs the question, how important was it for Zappacosta to be a BFD, a big fucking deal in the United States of America?
Not at all. I can give a shit. I really give a
Well, then it's A to Z.
I never really, I have to say, in all honesty, it was never the idea of being rock star, never fit anywhere near in my life as such. I was, and I still am quite embarrassed about stuff. I love playing for small rooms. I mind playing 100 people, 150 people, a couple hundred people. I get a feel for it and stuff. Oh, geez. And it really is not sour grapes. I really believe that people are sort of built, or people grow up with that already inbred, in them, that they want to be a star. They want to be a star. They need to have that happen. And I think it's all wonderful if you feel that. I never had this need to be. It was enjoying what I was doing, making a living at what I needed to do, just make sure you could pay the bills and the kids get fed and just, the normal kind of thing. The rest of it just didn't seem real. And it was easy to fall into that trap. Again, it's not sour grapes. It's nothing that I ever really wanted to do, but I've been doing it for a long time because I just need what I need.
Is this like simply because you're an artist who needs to art?
I was ready to get out of it a long time ago. It's just that, I was in with contracts and things, and it ended up becoming, it led me on to other things in theater and whatnot. And it was like, I sort of, under this umbrella of the arts, I ended up doing a lot of different things and found myself being able to make a living doing it, and then for a while there, I was just getting out to have maybe open up a little jazz bar or something like that, so I could put myself in the corner and invite people to do it and sell veal cutlet sandwiches. Wow. I would have been happy doing that. But that didn't work out, as I kept getting calls to do other plays and other musicals and things, and it seemed that every time I was ready to jump out, I feel like Al Pacino there, and they pull me right back in. But
Right. Godfather 3.
but no, I'm completely. I mean, I've never been happier, really. If you think about it, I'm still able to go out there and do quite a bit of performing and stuff, and I could live quietly, without, I don't know, having anything to prove to anybody. I do it for myself, I really do. And if there's people out there that enjoy what I'm doing, they're welcome to come. And if you haven't, if you don't want to, you're more than welcome not to come either. I really give a shit.
Well, it sounds like you've struck the balance. Like hearing you talk, you sound, you mentioned you're 70 years old. You're so content and comfortable with where you are in your life. Like it's a pleasure to hear this.
Well, it's got to be, I mean, I'm not getting all like philosophical, but you have to be happy. I mean, anybody that you start to notice that anything that's going on in your life, if it's nothing but angst and it just continues to be that, I mean, we have to change that. I'll continue writing songs when I feel like it. I'm still recording. I'll be doing another record pretty soon, and I'll be going until I drop dead, and it'll be the last one I do on stage. But if that's so be it. But everybody around me is done okay. I could look back on some crazy, crazy times when I was felt completely lost, where you felt like going, and probably a lot of drinking just to, medicinally, the drinking that I'd be doing just to keep the edge off, because it was just so crazy, and it was just a great big calming down factor for me. But of course, it's stupid. It's stupid. It does calm me down, but was able to sort of like medicinally keep me sort of at that level. But that's been a lot of years now that I don't play with that shit anymore. But you again, not to sound philosophical, but if you're not happy, it's all about trying to be happy, trying to do what fills your heart, seeing your family around you and seeing that they're all doing good, being able to face the world, and that by the end of it, we still have great company, and you don't mind yours.
Well said, Alfie. Now I'm going to have you say more about a certain soundtrack after we listen to a little of this ditty.
Yeah.
This overload.
All right, nobody puts Baby in the corner, but somebody put Zappacosta on the Dirty Dancing soundtrack.
Yeah. Yep, they sure did. That would be Jimmy Einer. Jimmy Einer, Millennium Records, again, was introduced to him by Frank Davies. Frank was doing a lot of business with them at the time. But anyway, Jimmy Einer, I had dinner with Jimmy a long time ago. He wanted me to sign the Millennium Records out of New York. Every time I was offered something, Lieber Krebs as a management company that were dealing with Aerosmith at the time, what I saw was I would be on tour forever, and that's the whole idea of what it was. I'd get down to the States and get on tour forever. And probably a good likelihood, based on all the kind of people they were dealing with, the Aerosmiths of the world, stuff like that, I probably would have been famous, probably would have been some. Not doing exactly what I want to do, and probably have killed myself, basically, because it was never, again, it was something that I really did not aspire to. I wanted to stay home. And so I turned Jimmy down, but for what it's worth, it sounds like, oh yeah, I just turned people down. It's just the way I really didn't want to do it. I turned down Lieber Krebs, went to Lou because he was in Canada. I turned down Jimmy, but Jimmy, we got along great. And we went to, and he said to me, I'm going to give you a call at one time, and I'm going to get you to write me something. And you're just going to write something for me, and then don't think about it, just get it done. So I went, sure. So it was wonderful when I, didn't go to Millennium Records and stuff. And then I went to, I ended up doing the A to Z record with the guys with the Lou Blair, Bruce Allen. I can't remember the other fellows. It was called Penta, and who I did that record with. And Jimmy asked me about that, and we had no idea what it was for. I'd asked Jerry Mosby and Gerald O'Brien, we were going to do it. I figured I'd just going to whip up something as a demo. And that's where I was introduced to, at that point, Marco Luciani. We went to his basement, we had a little studio hooked up in there, and I did a demo. I sent it to Jimmy, and Jimmy said, I really like it. And I went, okay. And he gave me a minimal amount of money to go produce. And Wellesley Sound was a studio that I worked out of Toronto for a long, long time. Went down to Wellesley and I put down a great demo of it, a demo of it, and sent it down to him. And he thought it was absolutely wonderful. He came up to touch it up a little bit. And so for very little money, I handed this thing over to him. Sharon Lee Williams was the lady that did the wild singing with me. She was absolutely tremendous. Sharon Lee Williams. She sang the background vocals. Oh.
Yeah, I was going to ask you who that is because she sounds great.
Yeah, Sharon Lee out of Toronto. And anyway, handed it over, and it wasn't until like a year later, people hear about Dirty Dancing soundtrack, and I went to the opening, but the opening was just in Toronto, just to see the movie. Like there wasn't any stars there or anything like that, just to see it. And I went, that's nice, that's a nice movie. I didn't think anything of it. Like a year later, and this thing is like millions and millions and millions of freaking records, and of course, it's nothing that I'd ever seen in my life. So got us out of the cockroach infested apartments and into a little house that we rented. And soon after, I moved to Edmonton to get, just got out of Toronto because I realized that. But anyway, thank you very much, Jimmy Einer. Yeah. Thank you very much, Baby, who was obviously being in the corner was not a bad thing after all. And I taught Patrick Swayze all his dance moves. So, someone should be very thankful.
Is that true? Because be careful what you say. It might end up on your Wikipedia page.
No, my God, I'm lucky if I could do a two-step, it's fine. No,
I always remember, so you remember the Saturday Night Live skit about Chippendales with Chris Farley and Patrick Swayze are vying for the last spot on the Chippendales?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. No. So, anyways, rest in peace, Patrick Swayze, gone too soon.
Swayze, yes, absolutely. It was sad, very sad.
Very sad. But it sounds like you did all right. I was gonna, I don't have to see the financial records, but I mean, Dirty Dancing soundtrack is one of the biggest selling soundtracks of the decade. Like this. I'm just telling the listenership who might be a bit young. What a monster! I owned it. What a monster soundtrack, that Dirty Dancing soundtrack. It's awesome. You got on there, and
yes.
Enough money there to trickle some down to you, and you could rent a house.
It was a blessing for sure, and it was at the same time you realize too that there was publishers. There was never was released as a single. I mean, had it been a single, there would have been a lot more to talk about if it would have been promoted that way, But right. No, I ain't saying nothing because at the same time too. It wasn't be like millions of dollars, but let's just say that for people who aren't used to paying income tax, you start to realize too, when you sat back, I did nothing for a little while, just and realize that like an over half got taken away right away by income tax. You start looking at things and to be able to think of it, it's something like that you need to maintain all the time. If you start thinking that this is the beginning and it's going to be like this all the time, you're down. You're
Well,
pretty freaking silly. Let me tell you. You know,
well,
it's a boon. It was sort of like winning a bit of a lottery, and then it's gone. You know.
well, savvy of you, because there are too many, artists who have that moment early in their career, and then they kind of adjust their lifestyle as if that's going to be the new constant, and then they don't realize, especially in this country, there's the peaks and valleys, right?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, I saw some of that, you could see some of that stuff firsthand and everything, but I was careful for sure, and with all good reason, like sincerely, this is stuff that just gets dropped on your lap, and it's not like you're preparing in any way, like in attacks, motions and stuff, knowing what to do and defer and all this kind of stuff. I remember They gave me some good here's what you should, good advice, if you got to pay them right away, don't defer stuff like that. I just basically went everything. I did the right thing as far as I was concerned, paid it all up, didn't hide anything, just in what I had left for no, and I knew I was like, but it's like I said, it was comfortable enough to be able to go back into nightcaps and a few places I went to be able to learn how to play. I could never learn for a long, long time. All these songs being done, people asked me to stand up with a guitar and sing one of them. We couldn't do it without the production in it and stuff. So I went into nightcaps about two years or so and stripped everything right down, and was able to know that at any given moment I can go out as a duo, a trio, full band, whatever, or a single. And so I took the time to be able to do a little bit of soul searching.
Okay, good for you. Now, I teased earlier in this conversation, which I'm thoroughly enjoying, by the way. Cancel your 5 o'clock. We're gonna go all night here. Okay. No, just kidding, there, Alfie. Don't worry. Don't close the Zoom, because I'm about to play the jingle. That I got more questions about this than anything. So let's listen.
439 Pizza Nova. 439 Pizza Nova. With every Pizza Nova, you get real Italian pizza. You'll get a friendly chow, 'cause that's the way we'll treat ya. So pick up the phone and call us. Pick up the phone and call us now. Oh, Pizza Nova, pick up the phone and get a chow. 439 Pizza Nova. 439 Pizza Nova. The real Italian pizza with flavor you can savor. Get a mille grazie, now do yourself a favor. So pick up the phone and call us. Pick up the phone and call us now. Oh, Pizza Nova, pick up the phone and get a chow. 439 and the 40. 439, lots of zero. Pizza Nova. 439 Pizza Nova.
Alfie, I've almost got tears in my eyes. My goodness gracious. Wave of nostalgia just coming over me here. But I need the full story. Like, tell us what you did here, how it came to you, and are you aware of this legacy?
Oh yeah. What is it? 60 years, 40 years, or something like that? It's ridiculous. I was writing for Sid Kessler at the Air Company, Robert Arms, Sid Kessler, a bunch of people that had come through there, and I was asked to join the writing team. And it was, again, things that I would do while I was in the music industry, the music business and stuff, because people didn't know, like, unless you're touring constantly and stuff, making some monies that way is the only money you're actually going to make, right? And I worked for a jingle house, so I did a lot of singing and a lot of writing for the jingle companies, and that was another way for me to be able to keep my family alive and what I needed at the time, as well as being able to do something, again, that umbrella of the arts. And I kept doing it, and at one point in time there was the Pizza Nova thing that was offered, and the whole idea of that was like, with the record company, I wasn't going to take complete advantage. I could only do it for a certain point of time, and they promised it was going to run like 3 cycles. I think they're probably going to run maybe, I don't know, about a year, maybe less than that, 6 months or something like that, whatever it was. Right. So they did, and they stuck to that. And then after that, they came up, when the moon hits your eyes like a big pizza pie, Pizza Nova. Then they came up with that. I wasn't singing it or anything, but they had somebody else. And then it didn't do well. So somehow Sid Kessler sold the piece for, I don't know what he sold it for, but he sold it to Pizza Nova. And they overrode everything and stuff. And all of a sudden just took it, they own it, and they just went with it. And now they only, so it was not a very nice thing to do, tell you the truth, as far as like what they were doing with us. I remember one point, because at that point they weren't going to, I don't know how legally how it all went, but they just did what they wanted with it. And there was nothing, it's almost like the way things are today. We look at social media and whatnot, you get your song, they throw it on there, and that's all that's to it. The whole idea of what used to work with publishing when not in songs and radio, it doesn't exist anymore. If you see any money anymore, it's ridiculous. So it was like the beginning of the end. So they went with that. I mean, as a matter of fact, there was Robert Arms called me at one point, and he said Alfie was been offered a good chunk of money to redo Pizza Nova commercial, and what he was asked to do is change the number. And so the people that were involved, Robert Arms and a few other people, were people that sang on that commercial as well. And he mentioned that he said, if you don't want me to do this, I won't do it. And I was just kind of flabbergasted. It was just an incredible, wonderful thing for him to say. And I said, well, don't do it. I mean, because they hadn't paid up any of the monies. They paid up exactly as long as, and of course, this is not really about the money as much as like some people just being nasty, you know. And there was you know, they were just going to walk away with it and stuff, and there was not much anybody could do. So when he asked me what do you think, and I said, well, I'd be interested if you say, like, you know, just tell them no, you don't want to do it, because there's a lot of people that felt the same way I did. They weren't getting paid. Nobody was getting paid for the fact that we were just going to run away with it. And so Robert, they say he didn't do it. He said, I'm not going to. But anyway, they came across wonderfully the people that were involved, the Montana Steels of the world, and people that were actually the advertisers and people that were came across, and what it would have paid up until that moment, they were good enough to be able to pay up and be completely great people for what they did. And of course, that up until that point, but it's still going on and on now. But you'll never see anything else of it at this point. But yeah, they ran with it. As a matter of fact, I was just in Toronto because they flew me in for their 40th anniversary. I think Pizza Nova has been around 60 years, but that song has been like over 40 years, right?
Right.
50, I don't know. And I went and sang it live for them at their party, at their great big party that they had. And I mean, you know, I look at it and say, that's okay. I might say that I'll be screaming blue murder if you guys go national. But at this point in my life, it's just we sit back and go like, oh, well, you know, remembered for something, that's fine, you know. So pizza, but they owe me a few pizzas, I think.
They owe you a few pizzas, my friend. And I hope you're, you know, content with the financial settlement there, because that's I got notes. Rock Golf wrote in and said, my favorite Alfie Zappacosta song is 439-0000, and he wanted to know the scoop on that. My goodness gracious. Okay, so is that your voice though? That's your voice I'm hearing on 439-0000.
Oh yes, mine and the Robert Arms and a few, and then who were the top session players at the time in Toronto? It was and being part of all that, it makes it all honestly worthwhile. There's some great memories and great history, and you know, like a wonderful.
Well, it does hit me like a ton of bricks, only because I listened to a lot of radio in the 80s and 90s, and you couldn't miss this particular jingle. But one thing that strikes me is, of course, phone numbers are obsolete now. Like in 2024, pizza companies don't pitch their phone number. Even Pizza dropped the 967-1111.
That was Graham Shaw.
Right. Oh my.
6-7. It was another story for him. Yeah, Graham Shaw was another.
Talk about him. Well, don't mind me. I'm going to go dig something up to show you in the crates beside me. But tell me about Graham Shaw. Oh no, you can tell me. I'll hear you. I'll just be over here. But
well, tell me about Graham Shaw.
Yeah,
Graham and I he's a wonderful character. You know, I remember the time when you start thinking about pizza commercials, because it's the same kind of thing. You're working for the people that own the company would, when it comes to dough and stuff, but they make it, you get paid a pittance to be able to do what you do. It's just the way of the world. But Graham Shaw, would you come near? Da, da, dee, da, 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 da. Anyway, we wrote a song together. We wrote a song called Midnight Mirage, and that was, I think, a lady called Jennifer Rush did in Europe. Graham Shaw and I worked on the song together. Great character. I love him. We still every now and then on Facebook say a quick howdy, hi Graham. And he had done the 967-1111 thing, but you were right. I guess however the world has gone to.
They don't want you to. First of all, they added, as you know, area code requirements at some point. I don't know if that was the early 90s or whenever that hit us. So it's like you can't even call 439-000. You got to 416-439-000. Right? And then at some point they really do now try to steer everybody to whatever, pizzanova.com or whatever. They want you to,
yes.
Yes. So it's like you just had to, live long enough for technology to make your song obsolete here. But I'll just tell you this, okay? With all due respect to Pizza Nova, I just want you to know I always eat my pizza from Palma Pasta. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm a Palma Pasta pizza eater.
It's been, to think about it, 50 years, obviously things are going to change in a big way when you start thinking about the music industry and what's done before 50 years. It was 100 years ago, and where we are. I mean, It's pretty obvious this is going to continue. God knows who's going to recognize it in the next little while, and whether there will be a business. I don't really know. I mean, people could record everything on GarageBand on your phone right now. If you really wanted to do something, it's pretty much all there. I mean,
true.
I'm not being negative about it. It's just sort of looking at if I just have really no idea where it's going to go, where it's going. I just know that if I'm lucky enough to be able to do this for the next 7, 8, 10 years of my life, I really won't give a rat's.
Go higher, man. Let's go for 30. Why not?
It's okay. I'm sure my audience will be dead at that point. Well, actually, they'll outlive me. What am I talking about?
But they'll still be younger fans of the wonderful work you did with Pizza Nova.
Well, see, there's something to be said about Pizza Nova. There you go. If it wasn't for them, they saved my life.
Last song. And then I want to talk a little acting, and then I'll set you free. I feel like I've taken a lot of your time because I'm very selfish like that. But there was a song, this actually, we spent a lot of time. We started in the 70s. We spent a lot of time in the 80s. But this song, as I was listening to Alfie Zappacosta, I was listening to a whole bunch of jams. And then this song struck me like, oh yeah, I remember this from 1990. I remember it so well. So I just want to play a little bit of this, and then I want to hear about the acting. But here is... maybe technology at some point will make it so that there are no letters to send in the mail or not. So maybe this song will get obsolete too. But here we go.
Yep.
I sent my girl a letter. I sent my girl a heart attack. She mustn't read the letter. I've got to get the letter back. You see, I sent the letter, believing she was in the sack, laying with her lovers. I've got to get the letter back.
So I'm listening to your wonderful catalog, and then this one, and I remember this one very well. And catchy AF, as the kids would say, man. This thing's been stuck in my head for the past few days.
I wrote this song, and David, I'm trying to remember David's last name, for God's sakes. He took it down to Skip Taylor in Los Angeles, and we had asked David, oh, it'll come to me, to produce that one song. He'd kind of an obscure kind of a character. Frank Davies introduced me to him. Went down to I gave him the song, and I had everything like flutes, da ba da da, da 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 ba da da da, and I had the song, and I'd written it, and sent it down to them, and they came back with that. I was just completely blown away in as far as like where they went with this, almost like metal. And when I say metal, it's the sounds are so metallic, and the kick-ass drums and what they did with the B3 and shit. So I went down to Los Angeles, and I sang it. I did all the background vocals, and I sang the song and everything and did it, and it was fun to do. But he kind of blew me away. We came up, and of course Donnie Allen was responsible for, after the fiasco of We Should Be Lovers. Don did When I Fall in Love Again, and Let Her Back, and I'll Be the One. And Donnie did a bunch of great sort of like keep all of a sudden it became a lot more artistic for the time, and it was a very, very happy time, for sure. It was on the Penta record, Quick Don't Ask Any Questions. So some really great songs on that record. And I have to hand it over to Skip Taylor, the musicians over there, because from the arrangement, they took mine arrangement to what they did over there. All of a sudden was like really the other side of the universe, But I loved it for sure. I agreed to it right away.
Very cool. Now I know you
about letters, about those letters. It's just that we were supposed to read it in the first place.
Well, now it would be. I gotta recall that email. Like, it's not quite as catchy, but yeah.
Got to get that email back. Got to get that email.
Yeah, right. Recall. Okay. So, not quite as romantic, but okay.
No, it didn't. I suppose you have to be sort of like paying attention to what rides nicely on the tongue, so to speak.
Right. Now, Carlo, when I was all about the music, Zappacosta, but I do know you have a wealth of acting under your belt. But Carlos said, don't sleep on his Danger Bay cameo.
I think about you. Yes, of course. It was another one of those things. After I did the theater stuff, after doing theater, everybody thought that I could be an actor or some damn thing on Danger Bay. I mean, oh my God. I mean, like, again, I just wanted to curl up in a ball and die. But, what we do.
So what acting in your life, what acting are you most proud of?
None. I don't mind whatever acting I've done that is on spur of the moment while I'm sitting there singing and on stage bouncing around where it's not recorded and gesturing to Evita, oh, what a circus, what a show, Argentina's gone down over the death of an actress called Eva Peron. Look at this stupid bitch, stuff like that. I can get away with this stuff, but I only want to say, if there is a way, take this cup away from me. I don't want to taste this poison. Where you're sitting there doing it all for yourself, and here's what I would sound like in a closet singing to myself, and acting, because it happens. I don't have to look at it.
Right. Well, long may you run, my friend. Speaking of Neil, real quick on the way out here. So there's a lot of attention being paid to the We Are the World charity single because they made a Netflix documentary that people are now watching. And I'm wondering, should Tears Are Not Enough get the same treatment? I think we should revisit this night of recording and pay some respect to artists like yourself that got together and made that song for a good cause.
No, very kind. I mean, it's nice. It'd be something I wouldn't mind seeing again. Whatever. I could watch the video, I suppose, anytime. And
Well, let's refresh it a bit here.
a little bit of history.
Let me see if I can get some funding, and I'll get on this thing, because the world, Canada needs this, and Canada needs Zappacosta. Thanks for being so generous with your time today. Thanks so much
Thanks for having me on. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,439th show. 1439. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm at Toronto Mike. All your Alfie Zappacosta needs are met at zappacosta.ca. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery, Palma Pasta, RecycleMyElectronics.ca, Raymond James Canada, and Ridley Funeral Home. See you all tomorrow when Gord's brother Bob Stellick makes his Toronto Mike debut live in studio. Don't you dare miss it.
Well, I wanna take a streetcar downtown, read Henry Miller and wander around, and drink some Guinness from a tin. 'Cause my UI check has just come in. Ah, where you been? Because everything is coming up rosy and green. Yeah, the wind is cold, but the smell of snow warms me today. And your smile is fine, and it's just like mine, and it won't go away. 'Cause everything